I'm glad he gave a time limit, a reminder, for I am a pastor, so time sometimes slips by, and so I will do my best. I'm very thankful for my wife. I know this is a time for celebration of thankfulness, and so I say thank you to my wife. I'm very thankful for her, my 2 children. I'm very thankful for the church that we're able to pastor in Pittsburgh, Texas. I'm very thankful for my mother and father, my sister that's not here. They've done a lot of things. I listened to all these testimonies, and I went back in my mind, and I could remember all those things. But one thing that I've heard several mention to you, they were thankful for their pastor, and it reminded me of a passage in the Bible of a man by the name of Moses. You're probably familiar with, but he was standing on a mountain. His upcoming man of God behind him, Joshua, would be, he was in the valley fighting a fight, and Moses is standing on top of the mountain, and beside him is Aaron and a man by the name of Hur. And during my studies the last few weeks, I learned a little bit about this man by the name of Hur. He had a son, and that son had another son, and his name was Bezaleel. And he was actually called by God to anoint, or he was actually anointed by God in knowledge and wisdom and several different other things, but one of them was the craftsmanship. And he was called by God to help Moses and to be basically an architect to build the tabernacle in the wilderness. And I began to think about it. I began to really, I haven't preached this yet at church, so that's why I'm using it here first to see if it will go over. No, I'm kidding. I began to think about how important it is, because this man by the name of Hur, the grandfather of Bezaleel, was standing beside Moses, and as Moses holds his hands up and gets tired, the man of God gets tired, his hands start to fall, and Aaron on one side holds his arm, and the man by the name of Hur on the other side holds his arm. And it dawned on me, I realized that this man that had stood there in the midst of battle, while Joshua was fighting the battle, Moses is standing there with his arms up. It was just as important for someone to come in behind him or beside him and hold the man of God's arms. I'm thankful for my pastor. I'm thankful for all my pastor does. And there's times where we get the opportunity to say thank you. We get the opportunity to say, God bless you. Thank you, Pastor, for doing this. But you see, just like Thanksgiving today should not be just celebrated today, but all throughout the year. We should celebrate the Thanksgiving of our pastor. We should hold the arms and we should bless our pastor. We should we should worship God so much that our pastor feels it. We should love God so much our pastor understands it and sees it. You see, by her standing up, building up his pastor, holding his pastor's hands, 3 generations later, God uses his grandson, his generation, to build up the tabernacle. Let me tell you how important that was. God created the heavens and the earth. God created the universe in 2 chapters. It took God 16 chapters to give Moses how he wanted his plan and his everything about the tabernacle. The tabernacle was important to God. The tabernacle was detailed. The tabernacle was where God's presence was set. And because God saw that Hur was willing to lift up and praise his pastor, that God said, oh, I'm going to bless you, Hur, but I'm going to bless your son. I'm going to bless your grandkids. And that right there gives thanks to the pastor. We must learn to thank our pastor, even when our pastor's stepping on our toes, even when our pastor's preaching to us, even when our pastor, it doesn't always seem like our pastor is telling us what we want to hear. And that's good, because our pastor's walking in the footsteps of God. So I know I love my wife, and I'm thankful for my wife. I'm thankful for my parents and my church. But I must say, I'm thankful for my pastor, because I know my pastor is praying for me. I know your pastor's praying for you. It would be a blessing and honor. Go ahead and stand up and give your pastor a thanks of hand claps. Go ahead and stand up. I know he's a man of God, but just something rises up whenever a church says, thank you, Pastor, for standing up in the middle of the night. When I'm sleeping, my pastor's praying for me. When my body is tormented with cancer, when my body's filled with sickness, I know my pastor's praying and fasting for me. I must thank my pastor. I say thank you, Brother Stovall. You're an awesome man. You've been very good to me and my family. Thank you for praying for my family. Thank you. God bless you.